Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, Identity and Influence. My name is Mo, and I'm here with Dr. Lim Yusita. Today, we're talking about leadership lesson number 25, faith in your leadership. Dr. Lim, what's up, man?
Yes, sir, Dr. Mo. Good seeing you. Always great seeing you, and always great spending time with you, talking about leadership, talking about the lessons that we're learning. Let's go.
Let's just start out by hearing what are your thoughts about this particular leadership lesson and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, I think this is a very foundational feature of leadership. We all need that intrinsic motivation, that internal drive, and the resilience to lead. And as much as it helps to have people encourage us, there's just something about like that self leadership that we kind of talk about in some of these episodes that will drive your leadership. So, this lesson is about having faith in your leadership.
What inspired you to write about both leadership and faith in the way that you did?
Faith is an interesting idea. I mean, it's just kind of that confidence. It's just that blind confidence. It's just that even though it doesn't make any sense, you have the faith in your leadership and in yourself uh, to work through that situation. And if you're in leadership, you're going to find yourself in situations where you're not going to have all the information. You're not going to necessarily be in an ideal situation, but you can still have to lead and make decisions. You need that faith in your leadership in order to do that.
You make a real clear distinction between religious faith and faith in leadership. Why is that distinction important and what should we do about it?
So I mean, I'd say it's pretty similar. Having confidence and belief in something that's impossible and you can't see is basically what faith is. Now, if you are a Christian, it's complementary to have your Christian faith because your faith in God can empower you in your leadership and your sense of being, in your security in yourself. But I make that differentiation because I think when I wrote this, I was working in a Christian setting and I didn't want to necessarily confuse your Christian faith with this leadership faith that I was talking about here. This leadership faith, I think, relies on like you can do something about it. Whereas in Christian faith, it's you're asking God to do some stuff. And so that's probably the main difference. And so I added it for a little bit of clarity.
How do you define faith in leadership?
Just having belief in yourself, having insane confidence in your leadership ability, but I differentiate that from arrogance because there's a lot of leaders that have a lot of arrogance. And the kind of leadership that we talk about here typically has to do with humility, has to do with service, it has to do with working for others and with others, and you know, leading something beyond ourselves. And so I think, yeah, I think that's what it means.
You know me, brother. I'm all about confidence. I'm all about doing the best that I can. And I want my leaders, the men and women who look to me, to do the same. So I love that. So why do you think so many leaders struggle with believing in themselves?
And I think they struggle because they are selfish, and because of that, they have an inflated view of themselves. They have an inflated view of their leadership ability. But this type of faith that I talk about in this lesson has to do with a belief in yourself for the benefit of those you lead. It's a service kind of leadership. It isn't about me being better as much as it is about me helping other people. So we got a lot of selfish and arrogant leaders, but this type of leadership that I'm talking about is care for others.
You mentioned that faith and leadership isn't arrogance. You just mentioned that. It's not blind optimism. What's the difference between arrogance, believing in yourself, blind optimism?
Yeah, yeah,
How can I wrap my head around this so that make sure that I'm not just being arrogant,
yeah,
that I'm confident
yeah.
because and I don't want to be arrogant. I want to be confident in what I do. So what do I do?
Arrogance, I think, is about self. It's selfish. I think blind optimism is that inflated view of yourself, which is again selfish. And this kind of leadership faith instills belief in others. Because I have this leadership faith, I have this belief in my ability because I'm confident, I can instill that into other people. So it's about the team, it's about leading others. I think that's the difference. Like I
Okay.
said, there's lots of leaders that are arrogant, lots of leaders that have an inflated view of themselves. And they look like a leader. They look like loud and they can lead. But this leadership faith is one that instills belief and grows faith in others.
Can you share a moment from your own leadership journey when you had to lead purely based on faith?
Man, I stepped in a few leadership roles that seemed impossible, roles that didn't make sense to step into. Even friends saying like, why are you doing this? And in fact, one of my last executive roles, like realized that I don't know that I have, the faith to do this, but I'm going to step into it anyway because I believe in myself. There's so many organizational issues in these opportunities, and because there's so many things going on, and there's so many unknowns, it requires faith in your leadership to work through all the unknowns. And so, is it arrogance? Not in my case, because there was a humility there. There was a almost scared, you know, like, man, I'm going to take this on. I don't know that I can do this, but the faith in my leadership and the confidence that comes from that is what allowed me to step into that role. So I did it.
It seems pretty easy when you just say, and so I did it. What if it's not that easy for somebody? Or really is that something that leaders have to develop?
Yeah. Well, we say in many of these episodes that leadership is hard. So if it's not that easy, if it's not that easy for a person, they're not going to do it. They do not have the faith and the confidence in themselves to do it. They're not going to step into it. It takes faith in your leadership in order to step into so many unknowns. But that's part of it.
Rising tide, we're all about simplifying the complexities of the leadership journey. We don't say that leadership is easy, but we do say that leadership should be simple. And so how do you differentiate that? How do you keep it simple knowing that it's not going to be easy? Because sometimes we make it complex and it's hard.
Having the category in having the category or this box or the concept of I need to have faith in my leadership so that I can have influence. Like that's a big step. That's a simple step, right? And then you build off of that and you keep, and there's something about coming back to that. Like even now, I'm in a season where I'm just trying to figure out, okay, there are things that I want to do. I don't know that I necessarily have the skills or the ability. So I'm going to learn those, the skills and ability in order to lead in this next level and this next season of my life. But it's all built off of, this faith that I have in my leadership, this belief that I have, and this confidence that I have that I can do it.
A lot of leaders that I talk to feel like, gosh, Mo, I don't feel like I'm ready. I don't have the right stuff yet. So what do you say to someone who feels like they don't have the right background or the right credentials to lead?
Okay, first thing, if you don't have it, chill. Don't worry about it. Second thing, figure out what the skill is that you need in order to get your values connected to your vision. Like, what do I need to learn next in order to get this thing that I want? I mean, when you break it down like that, then it's just, okay, I need to learn this skill. I need to have this expertise in an area. I don't have that now. I'm going to learn it. And if you're not willing to work hard to like learn that, then there's your answer. You don't want to do it. You don't want to work. But that's the thing. Like, if you don't have the right background and credentials, go get it. Go get the skill. Go get the credentials. Go get the expertise. And do it. And know that it's going to take a lot of hard work to get that credential or to get that skill. So, you know, again, like you said, it's very simple. It's a simple step. Sometimes, but it's hard to do.
So how can a new leader, a young leader, begin to build this kind of faith early on in their careers and start to build on it?
Yeah. Find a group of people that need a leader and then step into leadership. Like find people that want to be led. Find a realistic group to lead. Like we're all good at something. I remember telling, my students like this was like 15 years ago. I'm like, just work on what it is that you're into. What are you into? This guy happened to be a guitar player. Like I'm into guitar pedals. Do a whole channel just talking about guitar. That was 15 years ago that I told this.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? If you would have done it 15 years ago, like you'd be in a completely different place now. But with the internet, it's easy to put yourself out there as the expert or like people will find you. And so find a group of people that need a leader and lead that group of people. I mean, you may not know where they are, but like once we put stuff out like this, like our podcast, we're putting it out into the world. People are finding it because they want to find this content. They want to grow their leadership. They need leadership to be simplified and they need to get the steps in order to grow in their leadership. And those are the people that are coming to watch our episodes. So thanks for coming to watch the episodes.
Absolutely. We're glad you're here. So in your article, you say, quote, no one else can give you this faith, close quote. How can a mentor help someone discover this faith in themselves?
So you need to take the DISC assessment. I'm going to keep hammering away at that because it's just such a great
Absolutely.
tool to help
It is.
you figure out who you are, what you're, and then take the strength finders as well. It helps you, it gives, I think those two tools like give you a great picture of like, this is who I am. This is what I'm able to do. A mentor can help you to discover, um, what abilities you have and where you should go to next. And so I think if you don't, if you don't have faith in your leadership, let's figure out who you are and then you lead out of who you are.
How do you cultivate, replenish faith in your leadership?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of went through a season where, you know, I was a director to the director of the place, and that was a tough transition. So I just took some time. Just took some time, hung out with my kid. I worked, and I was able, I was blessed with an opportunity where I was able to continue to work, but then also chill. And when you're ready, you get back up and you start over. In that season, in that time, you come back to the fundamentals. What is your vision for your future? What are your values? What skills do you need to get to your vision? You break down the steps, then you take the next step. You simplify what it is that you need to do. Don't get overwhelmed by the whole thing. Just figure out the next step. A leadership coach can help you with that, and so yeah, take your time, get ready, start over.
In your coaching work, how do you help clients develop confidence without becoming overconfident?
Yeah, it takes time. Like I just mentioned, you start with who you are, and out of who you are. And then what I try to do, because I've worked with individuals for over 25 years now, and so one of the things that I try to do, and I try to communicate, is I try to paint a picture of their future in light of their expertise and their potential. And so I remember this student was like, "How do you know this about me?" And I was like, I know where you're at now, and I can kind of forecast where you could be in 5 years. So I gave them a vision of themselves in 5 years, like of the leadership that they can have in 5 years. And then we figure out the steps in order to get there. And I give them the expectation to do that. So that's typically my process.
What role does failure play in building faith in one's leadership?
Is learning. Learning helps you to become a better leader. So when you fail, you learn one way to not do it. And that's one
Mm.
step closer to the right way. And so, when you get up to do it, just don't do it that way. You've already learned that. Okay. So like figure out the next way. And if it happens again, then you've just learned another way to not do it. See failure as learning and then it'll grow your leadership.
So, if leadership is a cycle, which is what you say in your article, leading builds faith, faith strengthens leadership. What does this look like practically?
I think it starts with faith in your leadership. Have that belief, or have somebody like build up your confidence so that you can lead. So that's the first part. And then once you get going in that cycle, leading builds faith, faith strengthens leadership. And then you do the next thing, the self-efficacy or the success in leadership grows your leadership. So the success that you just experienced, like should build up your confidence. And so that you either go do the next thing, which is could be a similar thing, or you go do the next thing, which might be a bigger thing. But you have the success of things that you've done in your past and I help you grow your faith and confidence in your leadership, which allows you to step into the next level of leadership.
What's your advice to someone who's leading right now, but is constantly second guessing their decisions?
First of all, it's pretty normal, I think. And then come back to your fundamentals. Reassess where you're at. It's always taking your vision, right? Find your grounding and your foundation and your values. And then figure out where you're at. Let's figure out the skills that I need in order to, make my vision happen. I mean, it's going to be the same every step of the way. And so as you grow and as you learn, as you read more, I mean, it's just that process. Come back to the fundamentals, process, and then you can also hire us as a coach to help you walk through
That'd be a good move. I would love that. So, how can leaders model this kind of faith to their teams and at the same time not seem like they're being fake, overly self assured, that they're
that.
better than they really are?
Yeah. I think if you're leading authentically, you'll never have to fake it. So from the beginning, just lead authentically, be real, communicate vision, and then include them where you can in the process. And if you've built a leadership culture where you can be authentic, they can also be authentic. They'll already know where you're at, and there's already that relationship and communication to support that leadership. And so it all starts with the leader, and the leader needs to be the one to lead authentically. And then you set the tone for communicating vision, supporting each other. And then you can model this kind of faith. How can I make this better? What's the nuance? What have I learned about myself to make this better, more efficient, more effective? And then also coming back to your identity, your character development. You find, learning and growing, learning about yourself and then growing and knowledge of yourself really helps you to lead out of who you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of leaders, I mean, they know they don't have all the answers. So, why is it important for leaders to trust themselves even when they don't have all the answers?
And you're gonna, if you're in leadership long enough, you're gonna find that's gonna be a normal situation. You're gonna find yourself in situations where
Yeah.
like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I don't know how these people are gonna respond to this thing. But it's just a part of leadership to not know. But if you have previous experience in making decisions with all the information, again, you have the success and the self-efficacy of like, I've done this before. I may not know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm going to be ready for it. And if you've done it before, you can do it again. And so it's important for leaders to trust themselves and trust what they bring and know yourself well enough that even if you don't have all the answers, you know how you're going to react in that situation. Then it helps you to be more confident.
John Maxwell talks about levels of leadership. In fact, he's got a book
Yeah.
called The Five Levels of Leadership. So,
Yeah.
leaders, if you haven't read that, you need to read that to find out where you're at. Some leaders are ready for more responsibility, more leadership ability to help a greater amount of people. So, we're not telling people just go out and do it. Because if you're not ready to lead, you shouldn't be. My question is, how can somebody distinguish between a lack of faith in their leadership when they should be leading and a legitimate warning saying, hey, you're not ready yet?
Yeah. I think you ask the people around you, ask your close circle, ask your team, ask your mentors. That's what I do. I hit up my mentors. I hit up my accountability brothers, my friends that like I've done life with for over 20 years now. Like they know me and they've seen me do things and they've seen me in a bunch of different situations. So their opinion matters to me. So how if you can't, how can you distinguish between lack of faith and leadership? It's more than one person. And here's the deal: if you don't have that many people to ask, then like do that first.
What are the final thoughts, encouragements that you give to somebody listening? They might be in a tough season right now. They might be unsure. They might not know exactly if they're doing it right. What do they do?
You lead out of who you are. So the more you understand who you are, the more you understand how you're gonna feel or react in these situations. It'll just help you and grow you in your leadership. So start with who you are. Write down your ideas. Be clear on your vision. Be clear on your values. All the things we talk about. Like you said, I love that you said that. Like these are simple steps. Very hard to do, but yeah, start with who you are.
All right, then leadership lesson 25, faith
Yes,
in
sir.
your leadership. You got to do it. You got to have it.
Yep.
Listeners, get on it. Know yourself. Get a hold of us. We'd love to help you.
Yes, sir.
And if these discussions like today and all that we've been doing have been helping you, make sure you hit that subscribe button, sign up for the newsletter at rtclc.com. It's free. We don't sell your stuff. We just want to give you the good stuff. So until next time, Dr. Lim, thanks so much for making the time, brother. And
Yes,
we'll do
sir.
it again soon.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.